Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the term plant-based diet and why this isn't always used correctly. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And the reason this is becoming a bigger topic is because a lot of vegans and vegetarians, and mostly vegans, have gone over to trying to use this term because so many militant vegans have really pissed off a lot of people. And vegans are such a tiny minority, a very vocal, but very, very tiny minority. We're talking about less than 1% of the population usually chooses this lifestyle, and the majority of people who choose it can't sustain it. But they try to use the term plant-based diet, but then when anyone is on a plant-based diet, they try to say, no, you should cut out all animal products, because that's not what a plant-based diet means. Yes, it is generally agreed by researchers around the world that plant-based diets are superior for your health. All right, I follow a plant-based diet. All right, I follow a plant-based diet. Plant-based diet means you get the vast majority of your calories, meaning at least 2/3 or more of your calories from plant sources. All right, we eat plants. We eat starches. Starches are the native, most efficient fuel source for humans. Starches. We break down starches easy. And people say, what about sugars? Because a lot of sugars we don't break down as easy. People get this confused. They go through extra processes. Starches are the most efficient fuel source for humans. Our biochemistry, our metabolism is set up to use it efficiently, effectively, break it down. We are primarily a starch-based species in terms of our whole metabolism. All right, we do really well on starches. We do really well also on certain types of fibers, which aren't necessarily starches, but we actually do really well consuming lots of those in our diet. Also, we can convert some of those to fuel right in our GI tract without our body having to do extra work due to our gut flora, and turn those into short-chain fatty acids, which are also a very efficient fuel source. But we're starch burners. We're glucose burners as a species. We do really well on high-starch diets. All right. Experts generally agree on this. It's only kooky people who follow keto who disagree with that. So here's the problem. When we talk about a plant-based diet, the only stuff that gets excluded from that are extreme diets. The American diet is an extreme diet. Someone who's eating fried French fries and hamburgers and stuff every single day might actually not be on a plant-based diet, because 50% of their calories sometimes are coming from really fatty cuts of meat. All right, so in other words, in order to go off of a plant-based diet, you either have to force yourself to eat large amounts of protein, or you have to force yourself to consume large amounts of animal fat. Basically, you're going on a diet that would never have existed in nature. And that's kind of the problem we run into. All these vegans and people will say, oh, you need to cut all the animal products out because of this or that. But you know what? Those are modern problems that we've created. Historically, the animals that we have eaten historically, number one, it's difficult to catch and kill and eat enough of them to create a problem. If you're eating really lean protein, what happens? You eat less because they fill you up so much. It has a high satiety effect. You're not going to eat that much of it. You really aren't. And most animals in the wild, all through history that humans ate, were relatively lean. Only because of modern agriculture and the way we fatten animals up is there even large amounts of saturated fat in our diet. All right, that's it. And people can still choose to eat lean animals. They can choose the lean animal proteins. And when you do that, the health risk that all the data shows goes away. So in other words, a plant-based diet means that you're sticking to mostly the lean proteins, or if you're eating fatty or animal source products, you're eating them in very small amounts. That seems to be what creates the longest lived cultures on earth, but it's not excluding other stuff. And that's the difference. So when researchers even look at it and say a plant-based diet does seem to be the healthiest, they're not telling you to go on a vegan diet, because vegan diets are excluding foods unnecessarily, and it's never healthy to exclude nutrient-dense foods just arbitrarily like that. And it really is. And they want to do it for ethical reasons, and they need to understand they're not promoting health. In fact, it's arguable that nutrient deficiencies can develop easier when you cut out all animal products. None of the longest lived cultures on earth are vegan. They moderate their animal products. Some of them do, some of them don't. It's just that all of them consume at least 80% plants, right? That's the difference. But you know, the same thing of the vegans and other people say, well, you need to avoid all these heavily refined foods. Don't fry in vegetable oils. Well, yeah, that's all understood, but the same logic you're using there is the same logic you say don't eat the really, really fatty meat. Don't eat a bunch of bacon. Don't eat a bunch of high-fat hamburger meat. It's the same logic. You're taking something that we've artificially created to create a diet that's very high in fat unnecessarily. And that's the problem. There's no difference between the two. But you wouldn't stand there and say you need to avoid potatoes because French fries cause problems. All right? You wouldn't say you need to avoid vegetables because deep fried pickles and deep fried artichoke probably aren't good for you. You wouldn't do that. And it's the same thing with the meat. Furthermore, we know there's a lot of health benefits to consuming animal source products. All right, first of all, if you do not eat animal products, you will have to supplement B12 in today's world. That's what you will have to do. So people who say exclude them, well, no, you're already creating an environment where you need supplements and vitamins. You are creating that environment. You will get less calcium. You will get less magnesium. And contrary to what a lot of these people seem to think, since vitamin D is thrown into stuff, and vitamin D is only necessary in certain climates, by the way. People who live in brighter climates don't need any vitamin D in their diet. But once the vitamin D is thrown in, all this talks about osteoporosis and stuff from dairy societies doesn't exist. All right, in fact, it's been noted statistically in the research there doesn't seem to be a real link when you go to individual regions. Not when we go to countries and look at epidemiology. We go to little individual regions to where everyone has the same amount of sunlight. And those people who consume dairy end up with less hip fractures. People oftentimes on higher protein diets end up with less hip fractures. So this whole screaming of vegans that protein causes osteoporosis, and another reason animal source protein, another reason you should go on an all plant diet, this isn't what the researchers are finding, guys. And so to say that a plant-based diet is ideal is not the same to say it is a vegan-based diet. Furthermore, the same thing. All the longest lived cultures in the world, you look at them, at least half of them consume some sort of cultured dairy. Again, the benefits to your gut flora outweigh whatever concerns these people have over dairy. Because biggest concern with dairy, it's not cancer. There's no link to that in humans. None. The concern with dairy is lactose and lactose intolerance. Well, cultured drinks not only remove the lactose intolerance for cultures and regions that have that, the lactose gets broken down. You now have all these cultured drinks that increase gut flora, improve digestion, and improve your immune function. This is part of a healthy diet. So that's the problem we run into with these terms. This try to scream that, because plant-based diets are healthier, that you should then exclude everything that's not a plant. Again, that's nonsense. That's not logical. That's not reasonable. That's like, or then they say, well, so you're saying to moderate it. Well, no, I'm definitely saying to moderate all these really fatty meats that we have produced in the modern world that you would never be able to find anywhere in nature. That's not how animals are out in the wild. But you have the option of just getting leaner cuts or leaner animals if you so choose. I'm saying to moderate the saturated fat. And just because something needs to be moderated doesn't mean there isn't a healthy range of it. It doesn't mean that there's any health problems and possibly not benefits to consuming a certain threshold. Case in point, water. We need to moderate water, but only in an artificial environment can we consume enough water to harm our health. All right, so only because of modern farming practices, cooking practices, everything else, can we even really get enough fatty foods for animal fat to become a problem for us. We've created an artificial situation in which we can consume excess that will harm our health. Normally, under normal conditions, you wouldn't be able to. So that's why we have to moderate some of these things. Isn't it the same thing with water? Under a normal condition, if you don't drink enough water, it's harmful. There's an ideal health range for water, and there's a threshold of water that if you drink too much, it will kill you. It's deadly. So because we have to moderate water due to our high availability of clean water, some people forcing water, you wouldn't stand there and say, oh, you need to cut water out of your diet. That would be absurd. Better example, because that's an extreme one, how about fruit? How about fruit? Fruit's a healthy food. You can eat fruit in excess to the point you could, in theory, eat enough fructose from fruit, particularly due to modern farming practices. We've made our fruit sweeter, have we not? That's increased the fructose load. We know fructose will kill you. Fructose is as bad for you as saturated fat. Would we tell people to moderate fruit? Of course we would. We would tell someone you shouldn't eat, a really, really ultra high fruit diet, in the sense of you probably shouldn't be eating 30 bananas a day. Right? If you're eating 30 bananas a day, you're probably getting enough fructose chronically that there could be long-term health effects. Now, that will be blunted due to the fiber in the bananas to some extent. Yeah. Fiber is kind of a magical thing. You guys know that fiber intake also blunts some of the negative effects of saturated fat. So when we talk about fiber kind of being a cure for a lot of things, again, you get fiber from plants, eating a lot of plants. It blunts the negative response of some of the foods that we could eat in excess. It does blunt it. It reduces some of the negative effects of saturated fat, reduces some of the negative effects of fructose. But all those bananas do have some fiber to offset that. But in theory, because we've raised these crops in the modern world to have more fructose, to be sweeter, just like we've created animals to be fatter and have more saturated fat, it is possible to consume enough fruit to harm your health. It would have to be a lot, but then again, you have to consume a lot of saturated fat to have health problems. But it's available, and it's easier to do now. And it's the same with fruit to some extent, but we wouldn't say because it's possible to do that people should, need to not eat fruit at all. That would be absurd. Fruit's a perfectly healthy food. And if anything, a lot of people would benefit from eating a bit more fruit. There's the problem with these ideas. Plant-based diets are generally superior. Consuming like 80% of your calories from plants is generally the way to go, particularly minimally refined plants. Absolutely. Experts agree on that. But that doesn't mean that you don't eat any animal products when there are clear health benefits to some animal products, contrary to what some of these people will try to tell you. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.